Shalom, this is Aryeh Bernstein from Yerushalayim for Project Chayei Sarah 5772, 2011. The 35th chapter of Bamidbar legislates that 6 cities be appointed as cities of refuge, 3 cities on the east side of the Jordan River and 3 on the west side of the Jordan. Open to Israelites as well as for resident aliens, these 6 cities were to be a refuge for anyone who kills someone accidentally, so they could flee there and be safe from vengeful relatives of the victim. The law further fleshes out that these cities served as refuge for people who had acted violently and recklessly, but not with premeditation. Premeditated murder merits no refuge, while completely freakish accidental death that the perpetrator could not have reasonably prevented does not need refuge. The baseline of civil society is public safety. And the Torah here recognizes that it is reckless but not premeditated behavior that poses the most dangerous threat to society. That when people act irresponsibly and cause other people's death, it is very hard to prevent it from spiraling into a cycle of violence, as the mourners hunt down the perpetrator to carry out vigilante revenge, and on and on and on and on. Reckless manslaughterers need to be removed from the community to nip the cycle of violence in the bud. But there, in the city of refuge, they're able to rebuild their lives and have a bizarrely utopian image of a city that represents the possibility of peaceful and civil coexistence, which is populated entirely by scattered reckless manslaughterers integrated into a community of resident Levites. Levites who understand violence and slaughter very well through their work around the slaughter of animals in the temple and through their brutal history of bloodshed, avenging Dinah's rape and the golden calf idolaters. Levites who have learned, however, to direct their aggression towards service and not destruction. In cities of refuge, people most prone to extreme behavior coexist and model to each other and to all of us that aggression and recklessness need not be the end of the story. The 20th chapter of Sefer Yoshua tells us that upon conquering the land, Yoshua in fact did appoint those cities, and that Hevron was one of the 3 cities of refuge west of the Jordan River, along with Kedesh in the north and Shechem in the center. Why Hevron? The Torah does not say, but another thing we know about Hevron is that prior to Bnei Israel's entry to the land, Hevron was a city dominated by giants. The Torah relates in Bamidbar about the scouts' trip through the land. And they went up into the Negev and came to Hevron, and there Achiman, Sheshai, and Talmai of the giants. Vaya'alu v'negev vayavo ad Hevron, v'sham Achiman, Sheshai, v'Talmai, Yilidei ha'anak. Numbers chapter 13. This fact of the giants was preyed upon by the scouts mere verses later as they stirred up panic among their fellow Israelites with their reports that, among other things, we saw giants there. V'gam yilidei ha'anak ra'inu sham. There's an interesting textual peculiarity in that description of Hevron. Vaya'alu v'negev vayavo ad Hevron. Now we translated this just now ambiguously as they went up into the Negev and came to Hevron. But really, it says that they went up into the Negev and he came to Hevron. One verb, vaya'alu, is plural, as we would expect. They went up. But the second verb, strangely, is singular. Not vayavo'u, but vayavo. Not they came, but he came. Vaya'alu v'negev vayavo ad Hevron. The Gemara in Sota resolves this problem, saying that Kalev alone went to Hevron to pray to be saved from the corrosive counsel of the other scouts. We'll remember that Kalev is one of the 2 of the 12 scouts who ends up resisting the rabble-rousing negative report. The other 10 all say that Israel cannot conquer the land. Kalev and Yoshua say, let's do it. So the Gemara resolves this textual problem, saying it was Kalev alone who went to Hevron. He went to pray at the burial site of our ancestors, Abraham and Sarah, etc., says the Gemara, asking his deceased forebears and role models to help him pray for mercy that he not fall prey to the counsel of the other scouts. Melamed sheperash Kalev me'atzat meraglim, v'halach v'nishtatach al kivrei avot, amar lahen avotai, Bakshu alai rachamim she'inatzel me'atzat meraglim. They all ascended to the Negev. Kalev, already troubled by the faithless, aggressive, and presumptuous groupthink of the other scouts, broke off, ran ahead to Hevron to engage in personal centering in order best to perform his true role as a scout, the spiritual activism of preparing the people with useful information for sustainable living in Eretz Yisrael, untainted by fanatical fear-mongering. In addition to explaining the grammatical peculiarity, the whole plural singular problem, this text also fleshes out a picture of the making of Kalev as a figure of resistance, as well as filling out why it is that later in the book of Yoshua, Kalev receives the Hevron environs as his land allotment. Now, two interesting things should be noted in this midrash. One, Kalev ran ahead of the pack himself to Hevron, meaning that the scouts had not yet encountered any giants, yet had already unified to reject the possibility of a safe future in the land. Physically scary, violent, aggressive bullies, the giants, were used as a post facto excuse for the pre-existing defeatist groupthink of another group of aggressive bullies, the scouts. Fantasies about inevitable barriers of violence can exist quite vibrantly, independent of corroborating evidence. Two, where did Kalev go to get that spiritual help? Hevron, the city whose politics were dominated by scary giant bogeymen, and the place associated with death, where our matriarchs and patriarchs lay buried. He went to the belly of the beast. The scout who understood the problem of the violent extremist giants the best, Kalev, who witnessed them all alone, he was the one able to understand the problem in its context and not blow it perversely out of proportion. The 11th chapter of Yoshua tells that among the Israelites' military victories in conquering the land of Israel was Yoshua's defeat of these giants in Hevron. Only afterward could cities of refuge be established. People who set their identity on being violent bullies are an obstacle to safety and civil society and need to be defeated. But they are not everyone, and they are not the whole story. Much violence in our world is of the reckless variety. When some people don't totally think through the consequences of their actions, others respond vengefully, and then before you know it, everyone is caught up in what the Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai presciently called the big Chad Gadya machine, that endless cycle of violence. The cities of refuge tell us to stop, that it doesn't need to be that way. And Hevron is meant to be one of our beacons of this anti-violent ethic. Entire cities of people who know violence intimately can build a model city where violence goes to stop, where people immersed in authentic stories of panic and rage can go, live next door to other people immersed in their own authentic stories of panic and rage, and all stop and calm down. Yoshua chose Hevron, the most famous cemetery in the region, as if to emphasize further, the finality of death should sober us to see our joint destination, not arouse proprietary jealousy. Yoshua chose Hevron as if to say that a city known from time immemorial for the thug violence of giant extremists is precisely the place where, in a redeemed realpolitik, cycles of violence must go to stop. Refuge, peace, and civil society start in Hevron. Shabbat Shalom.